In the third part of chemical thermodynamics, we shall study about the first law of thermodynamics, concept of enthalpy, and the enthalpies of physical transformations. First, we will study about the first law of thermodynamics. First law of thermodynamics is based on conservation of energy. The statement for first law of thermodynamics is the total energy of the system and surrounding remains constant when the system changes from initial to final state. What it means is when the system moves from the starting point to the finish point, the total energy of the system and surrounding is going to remain constant, which means there won't be any change in the energy of the system and surrounding. The other statements which you can use to state the first law of thermodynamics are: energy of the universe remains constant. We know that universe is made up of system and surrounding. The next statement is the total internal energy of an isolated system remains constant. Energy is neither created nor destroyed, but it can be converted from one form to another. So you can use any of the four statements here to explain the first law of thermodynamics. Let us study the formulation of the law. By now, we know that system exchanges energy with the surrounding by two ways, either by transferring heat to the surrounding or by doing work on the surrounding. If energy is supplied to the system by the surrounding, then the internal energy of the system is going to increase. But on the other hand, if the heat is transferred from the system to the surrounding, or if work is done by the system on the surrounding, then the internal energy of the system is going to decrease. We know that internal energy is the energy of constituent particles. So if the particles are moving from the system to the surrounding, then the internal energy of the system is going to decrease. But if the particles are moving from the surrounding into the system, then the internal energy of the system is going to increase. Suppose if Q is the heat supplied to the system and W is the work done on the system by the surrounding, then of course the internal energy of the system is going to increase. So the increase in internal energy is equal to the sum of quantity of heat transferred to the system and the amount of work done on the system. In equation form, we will write it as delta U is equal to Q plus W. We are using the term delta U because there is an increase in the internal energy. This equation here is the first law of thermodynamics. If you want to write the above equation in terms of infinitesimal changes, that is very small amount, then the equation will take the form du is equal to dq plus dw. I told you the alphabet small d stands for small amount of changes. Now we are going to apply the first law of thermodynamics for various processes. First is isothermal process. In isothermal process, temperature is constant and also internal energy is constant. So we are going to consider the equation delta U is equal to Q plus W. Since internal energy is constant, we will take delta U is equal to 0. Substituting the value of delta U in the above equation, we will get 0 is equal to Q plus W. If I take W on the left hand side, then I'll get W is equal to minus Q. So this equation here, W is equal to minus Q, explains that when work is done on the system by the surrounding, heat is released. Hence the minus sign before Q. Next is the adiabatic process. In adiabatic process, there is no exchange of heat between system and surrounding. So Q will be equal to 0. Let us now take the equation for first law of thermodynamics, that is delta U is equal to Q plus W. If we substitute the value of Q is equal to 0 in the equation below, then we will get delta U is equal to W. Here the internal energy has a positive sign, so the work is done on the system. But on the other hand, if the system does work on the surrounding, then the internal energy is going to decrease and the equation will now become minus delta U is equal to minus W. Next is the isochoric process. Let us take the equation delta U is equal to Q plus W. We know that the formula for work is equal to W is equal to minus external pressure product delta V. Let us now substitute the value of W in the above equation. We will get delta U is equal to Q minus external pressure dot or product delta V. Because the reactions are carried out in a closed container, that is why the volume will remain constant. Hence, delta V becomes equal to 0. If you substitute delta V is equal to 0 in the above equation, the equation will become delta U is equal to Q minus external pressure into 0. So, external pressure into 0 will give us 0. So, we will be left with delta U is equal to Q. You can also write it as delta U is equal to QV. The subscript V here stands for heat being transferred at constant volume. So this equation states that change in internal energy of a system is because of the heat transferred at constant volume. Because internal energy is a state function, QV also is a state function. Last is the isobaric process. When reactions are carried out in open containers at atmospheric pressure, of course there is going to be change in volume. So delta V won't be equal to 0. Let us take the equation which is delta U is equal to Q plus W. We know the formula of work which is W is equal to minus external pressure product delta V. Let us substitute it in the above equation. We will get delta U is equal to Q minus external pressure product of delta V. Here we are going to replace the term Q by QP. The subscript P here represents the transfer of heat at constant atmospheric pressure. The next step I'll get is QP is equal to delta U plus external pressure product delta V. So this is all about the first law of thermodynamics for various processes. Now we move on to the concept of enthalpy. It is denoted by capital letter H. Enthalpy is the sum of internal energy of the system and the energy which is equivalent to pressure volume work. So the equation for enthalpy can be written as H is equal to sum of, so we write the plus sign, internal energy is denoted by U plus PV is the energy equivalent to pressure volume work. Next you have to consider the change in enthalpy which is denoted by delta H. It gives you the difference between the final and the initial enthalpies of a system. Final enthalpy is denoted by H2 and initial by H1. Now we are going to frame the equations for initial and final enthalpies considering the equation H is equal to U plus PV. Hence we will get, for initial enthalpy we will get H1 is equal to U1 plus P1 V1. For final enthalpy you will put the number 2. So you will get it as H2 is equal to U2 plus P2 V2. Now we are going to consider the equation delta H is equal to H2 minus H1. In place of H2 and H1 we are going to substitute the above values. Hence we will get delta H is equal to, in place of H2 I am substituting U2 plus P2 V2 minus, in place of H1 I am substituting U1 plus P1 V1. So taking the common terms aside, we will get U2 minus U1 plus P2V2 minus P1V1. We know that U2 minus U1 is the change in internal energy, which can be denoted by delta U. Also, P2V2 minus P1V1 can be written as delta PV. Substituting that in the above equation, we will get delta H is equal to delta U plus delta PV. At constant pressure, P1 becomes equal to P2. Let us take that as equal to P. So the above equation will now become delta H is equal to delta U plus P is constant, so we'll write it out. So P delta V. For isobaric process, for the first law of thermodynamics, we derived an equation which was Qp is equal to delta U plus P delta V. So if you observe these two equations here, you will see that the right hand side, that is delta U plus P delta V, is similar. Hence you can conclude that delta H is equal to Qp. If you want to put the above equation in terms of statement, then you can say the change in enthalpy, which is denoted by delta H, is equal to the transfer of heat at constant pressure from the system. So Q represents the heat and P, the subscript P, is the constant pressure. Now we are going to study the relationship between delta H and delta U for a chemical reaction. We know at constant pressure the change in enthalpy, which is denoted by delta H, and change in internal energy denoted by delta U, is related by an equation delta H is equal to delta U plus P delta V. If you consider the reactions which involve solid and liquid, then the change in volume is very small. Even after applying pressure, the change in volume is small, because when we compress solids and liquids, there is no much change in the volume. Let us now take the above equation, which is delta H is equal to delta U plus P delta V. In case of solids and liquids, we know that there is no change in volume, hence we are going to take delta V is equal to 0. So if we substitute this value, then we will get delta H is equal to delta U plus P into 0. So P into 0 is going to give us 0. Hence you will get delta H is equal to delta U. Let us now consider the reactions involving gas. Whenever we compress a gas, there is change in volume. So we cannot ignore the term volume when you study the reactions involving gas. Again, we are going to consider the same equation, that is delta H is equal to delta U plus P delta V. When you consider gases, the volume is not constant, which means there are changes that take place in volume. Hence, we are going to substitute V2 minus V1 in place of delta V. Let us now substitute this value in the above equation. Hence we will get delta H is equal to delta U plus P bracket V2 minus V1. Next we are just going to cross multiply. So we will get delta H is equal to delta U plus PV2 minus PV1. Here V1 is the volume of gaseous reactant and V2 is the volume of gaseous product. We are going to assume that the reactants and products are of ideal gas. Hence we are going to consider the ideal gas equation, which is PV is equal to nRT. Now we will modify the equation according to the reactants and products. For reactants, we will write it as PV1 is equal to N1RT, and for gaseous state product, we are going to write it as PV2 is equal to N2RT. Here N1 and N2 are the number of moles of gaseous reactants and gaseous product. Now we will take the equation delta H is equal to delta U plus PV2 minus PV1. So there we are going to substitute. In place of PV2 we will be substituting N2RT, and in place of PV1 we will be substituting N1RT. So we will get delta H is equal to delta U plus N2RT minus N1RT. Let us now take out the common term RT out. Hence we will get delta H is equal to delta U plus N2 minus N1 bracket close RT. N2 minus N1 is the difference in the number of moles of products and reactants. In place of N2 minus N1, we can write delta N. Hence, the reaction will become delta H is equal to delta U plus delta nRT. Next topic is work done in chemical reaction. The equation which gives the work done by the system at constant temperature and pressure is W is equal to minus external pressure product delta V. Here the external pressure is equal to the pressure of the gas. Hence we can write external pressure is equal to P, and the equation will now become W is equal to minus P product of delta V. We know that delta V is the change in volume. Therefore, in place of delta V, we will be substituting V2 minus V1. So, the equation will now become W is equal to minus P bracket V2 minus V1 and close the bracket. Next step is we just have to cross multiply V2 minus V1 with minus P. So we will get W is equal to minus PV2 minus minus is going to give us plus PV1. We are going to assume here the gas that we have used are ideal gases. Hence we are going to consider the equation PV is equal to nRT. Since here we are concerned with PV2 and PV1, we will take the equations PV1 is equal to N1RT and PV2 is equal to N2RT. Let us now substitute the values of PV1 and PV2 in the equation W is equal to minus PV2 plus PV1. Hence we will get W is equal to minus N2RT plus N1RT. Let us now remove the common terms out which are RT. Hence we will get W is equal to minus N2 minus N1 close the brackets RT. N2 minus N1 is the difference between the number of moles for the product and the reactants. Hence we can substitute delta N in place of N2 minus N1. Hence the reaction will now take the form of W is equal to minus delta N RT. You can also use the subscript G for delta N, which will give you the difference between the number of moles for products and those of reactants. So the equation W is equal to minus delta N GRT gives us the information of work done by a system in a chemical reaction. Let us now study certain criteria that will help us understand the value of delta Ng, that is the difference between the number of moles of products and those of reactants, are going to have a positive or a negative sign. First criteria is if N2 is greater than N1, which means the number of moles of products are more than the number of moles of reactants, then delta N is going to have a positive value and work is done by the system, or you can say W is less than 0. Second criteria is N2 is less than N1. That means the number of moles of products formed are less as compared to the number of moles of reactants. Hence, the delta Ng value is going to be negative. Here the work will be done on the system and W is going to have value which is more than 0. The next criteria is when your N2 becomes equal to N1, that is number of moles of products become equal to number of moles of reactants. In this case, the delta Ng is going to have a 0 value. Also work done will be 0. Now we move on to the last part for this video, that is enthalpies of physical transformations. First we shall study the enthalpy of phase transitions. In phase transition, one phase of a substance changes into another phase at constant temperature and pressure without undergoing changes in chemical composition. First is the enthalpy of fusion. It is denoted by delta FUS, which stands for fusion, and H stands for enthalpy. So the definition is enthalpy change that occurs when 1 mole of a solid is converted into liquid without change in temperature at constant pressure is said to be enthalpy of fusion. So basically, here they have taken the example of water, which is ice, of course, because it is in solid state, and it gets converted to water, which is in liquid state. So you can see the phase is getting converted, that is from solid to liquid. The heat absorbed here is plus 6.01 kilojoule mole inverse at 0 degree Celsius. Hence, you can say that when 1 mole of a solid ice melts at 0 degree Celsius and 1 atmospheric pressure, change in enthalpy is 6.01 kilojoule. The same amount of energy is absorbed by ice during the melting. And the reverse of the fusion process is going to be freezing of solids. So you are going to take liquid water and it is going to freeze into ice again as H2O in solid form. So here the enthalpy of freezing is minus 6.01 kilojoule mole inverse at 0 degree Celsius. So when the liquid got converted into ice, the heat was released out, and so the enthalpy of freezing has a negative sign. Whereas for enthalpy of fusion, when the ice got converted into liquid, it absorbed the heat from the surrounding, and that is why enthalpy of fusion has a positive sign. How are you going to define the enthalpy of freezing? You can say when 1 mole of liquid water freezes at 0 degrees Celsius, heat is evolved, which means heat is given out. So always keep in mind, when heat is absorbed, it is going to have a plus sign, and when heat is given out, the enthalpy is going to have a negative sign. Next is enthalpy of vaporization, delta VAP. So VAP stands for vaporization and H stands for enthalpy. So the definition is, it is the enthalpy change accompanying the vaporization of 1 mole of liquid without changing its temperature at constant pressure. Vaporization means liquid gets converted into gaseous state. So let us now look at two examples down here. So first you're going to take water which is in liquid state. It will get converted to water vapors or steam, hence it is denoted as H2OG, that is the gas phase. And the enthalpy of vaporization is given as plus 40 kilojoule mole inverse at 100 degree Celsius. The second reaction is H2O, again in liquid phase, gets converted into gaseous phase, that is water vapor. So here the enthalpy of vaporization is 44 kilojoule mole inverse at 25 degree Celsius. So you can see there is change in temperature. The first example is at 100 degree Celsius, whereas the second is at 25 degree Celsius. So when 1 mole of water is vaporized at 1 atmospheric pressure, the enthalpy changes from plus 40 kilojoule at 100 degree Celsius to 44 kilojoule at 25 degree Celsius. We know vaporization is liquid getting converted into gaseous phase, whereas condensation is gas getting converted into liquid state. So down here is an example of condensation process, wherein the water vapor or steam gets converted into liquid. So the enthalpy of condensation is minus 40.7 kilojoule mole inverse at 100 degree Celsius. So as you can see here, the enthalpy is having a negative sign, means the heat is released, whereas for vaporization, heat is absorbed, hence enthalpy of vaporization has a positive sign. Next is the enthalpy of sublimation. It is denoted by delta SUB, which stands for sublimation, and H is the enthalpy. The definition is, It is the enthalpy change for the conversion of 1 mole of solid directly into vapor at constant temperature and pressure. The definition of sublimation is, when a substance gets converted from solid state directly to gaseous state without undergoing the liquid state. For example are the camphor or the naphthalene balls. So we are going to take the example here. Water, which is in the form of ice because it is in solid state, gets converted into gaseous state, that is steam or water vapor. So here the enthalpy of sublimation is 51.08 kilojoule mole inverse at 0 degrees Celsius. So the conversion of solid to vapor occurs in one or two steps. First, the melting of solid into liquid, and second, its vaporization. So the enthalpy change is the same since enthalpy is a state function. Here we are going to consider the two reactions that we studied for enthalpy of fusion and enthalpy of vaporization. So the first was solid getting converted into water, that is ice getting converted into water by fusion, where the heat of fusion is 6.01 kilojoule mole inverse. The next is the vaporization process, where the liquid gets converted into gas. So the enthalpy of vaporization was 45.07 kilojoule mole inverse. So as they have said, the solid first gets melted, that is it gets converted into liquid, and then it vaporizes. So these are the two steps which explains this. Hence your solid gets converted into gas, and then we are going to add up the enthalpy of fusion and enthalpy of vaporization, and hence we get the value 51.08 kilojoule mole inverse. So if you observe the diagram here, you will see that enthalpy of sublimation is the sum of enthalpy of fusion and enthalpy of vaporization. Next are the enthalpies for atomic or molecular change. First is the enthalpy of ionization, which is denoted by the symbol delta ION, which stands for ionization, and H stands for enthalpy. The definition is, it is the enthalpy change accompanying the removal of an electron from one mole of gaseous atom. Here they have given the example of sodium, which is in gaseous state. After that it gets converted to Na plus, which is an ion, which is again in the gaseous state, with the elimination of an electron, and the enthalpy of ionization is 494 kilojoule mole inverse. The equation signifies when 1 mole of gas phase atomic sodium is ionized to gas phased Na plus ions, the enthalpy change is 494 kilojoule. The same amount of heat would be required to ionize 1 mole of sodium atom. So basically what they are trying to tell here is, in order to convert the gaseous atom of sodium into ion, 494 kilojoule mole inverse of heat is required. If you are removing one electron, it will have 1 plus sign. If you are removing 2 electrons, then it is going to have Na 2 plus sign. But since here there is only elimination of 1 electron, hence Na is having only 1 plus sign. And Na, which is in reactant side, is the atom, and one which is on the product side with the sign plus is an ion. Next is the electron gain enthalpy. It is defined as the enthalpy change when 1 mole of a gas phase atom of an element accepts electron to form a gaseous anion. Now anion is a species which has a negative sign. So an atom is going to accept an electron, and because it is accepting an electron, the ion that is going to be formed will have a negative sign. So here they have given the example of chlorine, which is in gaseous state. It accepts 1 electron, and that is why chlorine gets a negative sign. And the enthalpy of electron gain is minus 349 kilojoule mole inverse. Now why is the minus sign here? Because it is accepting an electron. Also heat will be released out during this particular reaction. Next is the enthalpy of atomization. It is denoted by delta ATOM, which stands for atomization, and H is the enthalpy. The definition is, it is the enthalpy change accompanying the dissociation of 1 mole of gaseous substance into atoms. First is the example of Cl2, which is in gaseous state. So it is going to dissociate as Cl plus Cl, which means 2 atoms of Cl. And the enthalpy of atomization is 242 kilojoule mole inverse. Next is the example of methane, that is CH4, again in gaseous state, which will dissociate as 1 carbon atom and 4 hydrogen atoms in gaseous state. And the enthalpy of atomization here is 1660 kilojoule mole inverse. Next is the enthalpy of solution. It is denoted by delta SOLN, which stands for solution, and H is the enthalpy. The definition goes, it is the enthalpy change in a process when 1 mole of a substance is dissolved in specific amount of solvent. So here they have given the example of sodium chloride, which is in solid state, and you are dissolving that in water. So it is just mentioned aqueous medium. Hence we are going to get the aqueous solution of sodium chloride. And the enthalpy of solution is 4 kilojoule mole inverse. The enthalpy of solution at infinite dilution is the enthalpy change when 1 mole of a substance is dissolved in infinite amount of solvent. Infinite means no particular amount is mentioned, and infinite means large amount of solvent. So the first definition here is for specified amount of solvent, whereas the second definition is for infinite amount of solvent. If we observe a ionic compound, then it dissolves in water in 2 steps. So the first step is the ions are separated from the molecule. So here they have considered Mx as a molecule which is in solid state. So after splitting up, it is going to split up in the form of cation and anion. That is M plus, which is the cation in gaseous state, and X minus, which is an anion in gaseous state. So enthalpy change for this step is crystal lattice enthalpy, so which is denoted by delta LH, and the values are always going to be positive. Crystal lattice means the ions, atoms, molecules are arranged in an orderly manner. In second step, the ions are hydrated with water molecules surrounding them. So here we take the ion, that is M plus in the gaseous state, along with water. X might be the number of water. So after the reaction you will see the compound that is formed. So M will be in the center and the water molecules will be surrounding that center ion. Next is X minus reacting with n number of water molecules. Similar is the case. X will be in the center surrounded by water molecules. And this enthalpy change always has a negative sign, and it is called as enthalpy of hydration. Hydration means it involves water, and it is denoted by delta HYD, which stands for hydration, and H for enthalpy. So if you want to calculate the enthalpy of a solution, then you are supposed to add the enthalpy of crystal lattice and enthalpy of hydration. So the formula for the enthalpy of solution is the sum of enthalpy of crystal lattice and enthalpy of hydration. So here they have given the example of NaCl. So the enthalpy of crystal lattice is found to be plus 790 kilojoule per mole, and that of hydration, that is enthalpy of hydration, is found to be minus 786 kilojoule per mole inverse. So we studied that the enthalpy of crystal lattice is always positive and the enthalpy of hydration is negative. So you can see the signs plus and minus there respectively. So then we just have to substitute these values in the formula above. Hence we will get plus 790 minus 786, which gives us plus 4 kilojoule per mole inverse. Okay, why the plus sign? Because 790 has plus sign there. Also is a greater number when compared with 786. So I hope you all are clear about the enthalpies of physical transformations.